Real Country 1430 AM and 1073 FM WRDN. Brian Winnekins at World Dairy Expo. Thank you to our expo sponsors, including Compeer Financial, Osteoplastics, UtterTech, Wisconsin Corn Growers Association, Wisconsin Farmers Union, Synergy Co-op, and the Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board. Joining us is Greg Doud. He is the incoming CEO with National Milk Producers Federation. So I'm going to talk with Greg a little bit today. And Greg, I guess first, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've got big shoes to fill with. I've spent the last month here, and I have a couple more months before Jim retires, and I assume the role. But it's a very, very exciting industry to be a part of in this country.
So tell us about what you think some of the biggest challenges are going to be for you assuming this role.
Well, the obvious challenges, I have to learn all these different particulars about federal milk marketing orders and dairy policy and risk management programs. I have been in Washington 31 years now, which I always tell people means I'm of no value to anyone in the outside world any longer. But no, it's I have a lot of background. I've worked up in the Senate and been in town a long time, but I've never done dairy, so this is a new thing I have to learn.
And you mentioned the federal milk market order. I'm trying to figure that out. All I got to say is good luck.
No, I did a couple days in Carmel here a couple weeks ago, and Jim teased me, and he said, okay, you came back to the office after that. He said, now we're in good shape. So it was, no, but not very many people have ever gone through this. Actually, it's been 23 years since the last time they did this, and that's the funny conversation in the office is now we know why. This is a very tedious and gigantic undertaking. But I think the key thing that National Milk has done here, and Jim has done a very good job of building consensus amongst the National Milk membership and deciding, okay, how are we going to do this, and what do we all agree on as a group, and push forward with that as a game plan. And I think that's paid huge dividends. You can tell it when you're talking to the folks at USDA that are there at the hearing. I think Jim and National Milk have done a great job here, and so just stick with the plan and work your way through the process.
We're talking with Greg Doud. He is the incoming CEO for National Milk Producers Federation today here at World Dairy Expo. Greg, now you mentioned you've been in D.C. You've been in the Senate. You've helped with that. And in talking with Jim, one of the things National Milk has been doing and the dairy industry has been doing is this ridiculousness with the FDA to enforce their own rules. And I talked with Tammy Baldwin, and I even mentioned it to Jim about the frustration. The frustration level's got to be at frustration level 9,000 here because there's a federal bureaucracy that just refuses to follow its own rules. How is that experience in the Senate going to help you to maybe help push this along?
Well, actually, it was my experience at USTR when we were negotiating the China deal had to work with FDA on some things on seafood, of all things, that were excruciatingly difficult when you were dealing with FDA. I just couldn't believe how difficult it was to get them to do anything. And, they had this mindset that, well, if we just keep stringing Greg out and stringing him out and stringing him out, maybe this whole thing will go away. Well, I didn't go away. And I got pretty, one evening during a negotiation, I got pretty frank with my friends at the FDA about what I expected them to do when I was inside of government. And we finally did. It was the very last thing that we negotiated in the ag side of the China Phase 1 agreement. So I get it. Let's be clear. This is a really, really tough bureaucracy to deal with, but I do have some experience with it, and I think that is one thing that we're going to work on at National Milk here. This is part of the thing as we look going forward down the road. We're gonna spend some additional resources here on the regulatory side, and in particular with the FDA.
Now you mentioned your experience with the USTR. Dairy's exporting capabilities or the need to export dairy products is huge, and National Milk has helped with that over the years. But are you going to be able to use some of that to help with some of these exports? I talked with Chad Vincent from Wisconsin, Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. They do things, and I'm sure a lot of the state dairy organizations do things. Was that something you're going to want to try to tap into?
Well, obviously, I have a lot of experience on the export side, whether it's on the wheat side of the equation or the beef side of the equation, and was the first deal we ever negotiated was with the Canada deal with USMCA. And so I was part of that negotiation and figuring all that out, which I think was one of the more interesting and complicated things that I've ever seen. So I get it on the trade side with dairy, and I think the simple answer to that is U.S. dairy industry is growing. I think our better days are ahead of us. If you look around the world, whether it's New Zealand, they're kind of maxed out. Australia, same thing. Europe is kind of headed in the wrong direction here with their farm to fork initiative, which in my old job I used to call the farm to empty fork initiative. So whether it's meat or protein or dairy or whatever in the world, the opportunities for trade are enormous, and this is where it's at. This is where we need to focus and where our growth opportunities are. And the U.S. Dairy Export Council is a world-class group doing a really, really good job, and had some really good visits with Krista Harden already. And I think the industry as a whole has great potential in that area.
So this week at World Dairy Expo, big crash course for you?
So this is my second time that I've been to World Dairy Expo. The first time was in 1988 when I was on the K-State Dairy Cattle Judging team.
So now I'm gonna ask you the third rail question here. Okay, what dairy breed is your favorite?
Oh, see, that is a third rail that you'll never get that out of me. You'll never get that out of me. But no, my claim to fame, and Jim makes we have a lot of fun with this. Is I actually won. I was the high individual, high reasons. We were the first place team at the Fort Worth Dairy Cattle Judging Contest in 1988. So I grew up on a hog farm, and the great Charlie Norton at K-State was our judging coach, and we always had, I remember the conversations. I didn't have any bad habits, so Charlie could teach me the right way to judge dairy cattle, and we did pretty well.
Okay, this is going to be the reporter in me. Okay, so what's your favorite breed to judge?
That's a good question. I kind of always have been partial to the jerseys. I kind of like them. They're it's the Holsteins are obviously that's the big breed, and what's interesting today out in Kansas with some of the crosses that you've seen, and me being the old beef guy, it's really interesting to see the evolution of beef on dairy. I think that has enormous potential. So what an exciting time it is in this industry. I mean, the technology, the growth, the change is just coming at you in all of agriculture, but in the dairy industry as well, every day.
Well, I've always said the brown Swiss are the divas of World Dairy Expo, because they always are. They want to show off, and then the jerseys are pretty much they're like, no, we're the divas. And the Guernseys and the Holsteins and the HRs are like, yeah, whatever. Go argue, but that's how I've always seen it.
Interesting. I don't know that I've ever really given it that much thought. So.
Brown Swiss are they're divas. Oh, they're such divas. Well, again, Greg, welcome aboard. We look forward to doing a lot more interviews with you down the road.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Greg Doud, he is the incoming CEO with National Milk Producers Federation from World Dairy Expo. I'm Brian Winnekens.